but in all things, we're being put in situations, we're being around people who are, our kids are making these decisions. So it's hard, because I know a lot of Christian parents who've pulled their kids out of everything because they don't want to be in them in those places. But what it does, it prevents them from having real life conversations about the world around us. We need to be aware of what's going on around us. And as our kids grow up, they need to be aware of it, because can you go and be a light someplace if you don't realize that that's a constant struggle for somebody? Also, how can you have a conversation with somebody? So I'll give the next line. This goes right into what I was thinking. So I had a conversation yesterday with a man and his we were talking about his marriage, and his wife has experienced some hurt and some pain here recently, and it's affected their communication, and there's been constant arguments amongst them and all of this. And I said, here's what you have to realize in communication: when you say something, there is one of two ways it's going to be that they're going to get it. It's either going to be a perceived of what they heard, or it will be a received of what they actually heard. In other words, if you say something, if you respond in a conversation and you mean to be hurtful, what they receive is hurtful. But if that person's going through a hard time, not really hearing what you're saying, they can receive what you say, but perceive it as hurtful, even if it wasn't intended. But then you got to look in the mirror. And when you walk into a conversation, when you're in a conversation with people, when you're in a relationship with people, you've got to own your piece of the puzzle. And I said, so for you in this situation where you understand that right now is a struggle based on something else, you have the ability to position her not to receive something in a perceived way because of her own hurt. In other words, you walk into that conversation with a heart to serve her. Get her into a place where she's going to actually hear what you say instead of just saying it. You start that by connecting with her and say, I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I want you to know that I'm not doing anything that would hurt you. And I know what's going on in your life. And I just want you to know I love you, but I want to let you know this. And so now you've positioned her, you've pulled down the barrier, the filter of perception, and you actually give the received thing that you're trying to say. And I've experienced this with people who are struggling in anxiety and fear and the suicidal thoughts and all that. You can give them truth. You can give them something that could help them, but they've been lulled into such a place of brokenness around them that everybody's after them. Everybody's coming to hurt them. The moment you say something, no matter what it sounds like, it's perceived as an attack on them. So we could just say, well, that's truth, and I'm just going to give it to you. Or we could say, you know what? I want to position you to receive what I have to give you. I think the Holy Spirit does this for us. The Holy Spirit just didn't come around just like slashing you. You need to hear this. Bam. Like, how many times has the Holy Spirit got you to a place and you've heard this from other people and all that, but he gets you to a place and it's like, wow, you're doing that. You're saying this for my good. You're not trying to wound me and attack me with it. You're not trying to condemn me with it. Conviction means he's giving you a way out. Conviction is a good thing. Condemnation is a final assessment. This is all you'll ever be. That's why the voice of the enemy, when he comes at you, it's always going to be negative, 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 negative. And he's going to attack you in that place and tell you this is all you'll ever be. When the voice of conviction comes, the Holy Spirit, it's the extension of what Jesus said, come follow me. It's an invitation out of where you've been stuck. It's not an assessment of what he sees. It's an invitation into what he sees, because he sees inside of you, not outside of you. So that's the difference in conviction. So then it challenges us as believers. How can we walk in that same posture to really make sure that we're not walking around and allowing people to be wounded by perception, because we want to do everything we can for them to actually have reception of what we say? Now it's going to affect how you communicate with your kids. It's going to affect how you communicate with your spouse, how you communicate with your coworkers or people who work for you, how you communicate with the people you serve, your customers. Like, it really puts us into a place that I want everybody to receive what I have. If I'm going to serve you, I want you to receive it. So how can I posture you to receive what I have for you? And I'll give this, and I want to hear your thoughts. Like, think about Jesus as he's speaking to his disciples when he's washing their feet. Tell me that's not a perfect place to receive what I'm saying about you. Like, Peter even says, you're not washing my feet. And Jesus is like, Peter, you don't even understand. Until you can receive being served, you'll never be able to serve. I'm here to posture you to be a servant. That's why me, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, is going to serve you to a level that you would not feel worthy of. The dirtiest of the dirty. Your feet are nasty. I'm going to posture you in this moment into a place of complete vulnerability to let you know I love you and I'm going to serve you in this place. I want you to receive what I'm doing for you. So I can only imagine as Jesus, we don't see the intimate prayers that he prayed one on one, but I cannot imagine that it was just a quiet time as he went from disciple to disciple and washed their feet. Just a few years ago, Morgan and I were part of a group, and as leaders of life groups in our church, our pastor's son-in-law came and he was talking to us about the importance of leadership and all this. And he said, I just felt by God that I was supposed to wash your feet. So he went around to each of us, him and his wife, uh, and they actually washed our feet. And as they were washing our feet, he said, I just want you to close your eyes and imagine that Jesus is washing your feet right now. I want you to connect intimately to that moment. And he just began to speak and pray over us in that moment. And it was such a vulnerable place because we had been postured to receive this intimacy, like, oh my God, he's rubbing my feet. But it was really crazy. And I think I received something there that could have been perceived other places, but it really took down all my barriers to let me know he's there for my good. He's serving me. And he gave me a word in that moment that was just challenging to me, but it was also one that invited me to something different. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. I think communication is so key in everything we do. I think the world around us doesn't do it well. I think the enemy has distorted communication and it's affecting the world. It's affecting how we can demonstrate the gospel to those around us. So at some point, we have to take that on ourselves to say, how can I change the narrative? So thoughts, anyone?
So I think one way to help posture people is by using gratitude with them. So he's just telling them thank you for something, and tell them what you appreciate about them is a good way to start any conversation.
Yeah. And this goes back to what I was going to say earlier with you, Chris. Your day to day demonstration of gratitude now, God is changing and shifting you in that place. How many times do we, when something happens to us, we respond negatively? We have just maybe not say anything, but it's just our body language, all that shifts and changes. But when you really begin to change and shift that gratitude in everything that you do, suddenly that will posture people to receive from you when they are around you all the time, and that becomes your atmosphere, that becomes your sphere of influences. I'm just going to respond differently to the things around me. Somebody's going to, when you say something now, they've witnessed it in you, they've witnessed your response, and they know you're not out to, because that's generally what happens. What they say, hurt people, and you'll see it. Somebody gets something, attacks them, and they just attack somebody else. So it's like this waterfall effect. Boom, 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 boom. But in that place, I'm not going to let this negatively affect me. It does really, Joe, did change our whole exterior, and people will soften. People will want to be around you in that place.